People aren't saving for retirement right now. They're literally cashing their freaking retirement out. So why the hell would you go into a conversation with, hey, let me talk to you about tax-free retirement when they just cashed out their Roth IRA? No wonder why you're struggling. If you're selling a policy that's built to be less than optimal at any given time, it is less than optimal. And how could anything that is less than optimal be considered in somebody's best interest? It can't.
You work with a lot of like really high level top producers, just people that are monsters putting up numbers that are just like hard to even believe and think of. What are those top producers doing that other people might not, or what are they not doing that other people are doing?
Dude, I'm so glad you asked this because it comes down to a couple things.
What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Life Insurance Telesales Mastery Podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Nidafan, and in this interview, we got Carson Porter. Carson is a monster life insurance producer. Produces a lot of advanced market stuff, but also simplified issue things. He's big in the insurance world. He's also got an agency mastermind. It's Rev, right? The Rev Syndicate.
Yeah, Rev Agency Syndicate.
The Rev Agency Syndicate. So he's actually helping agents out as well, really scale their businesses and creating a mastermind, which is awesome. So Carson, man, thanks for taking some time to chat with us for a little bit.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for having me back.
Of course, man. It was the last time, dude, you were dropping some bombs. Wanted to bring you back on, dude, because I think what's cool about you is you have a cool story, obviously getting into the industry and really like you don't care about what people think in a certain way of like, dude, you just say it how it is, which I love and appreciate. And I think a lot of people watching this and listening to this feel the same way. But dude, like, what do you, there's so many changes going on in the life insurance space nowadays. Like, how are you adjusting that to really fit you and help you sell more premium?
Yeah, there are a ton of changes. Like we just went the last few years with a ton of regulatory changes.
Yeah.
And now you've got all this economic uncertainty on top of an election year if you're in the US and like and even if you're not in the US, an election year in the US affects the economic markets globally. So it's kind of interesting. And there's, I mean, a lot more to it than that. We've had sustained inflation, sustained enough that we are officially like we are in a freaking recession, people. Like,
Yeah.
quit denying it. But but yeah, so you have just all these things. And it has what's crazy is even in my own production, but every agent I talk to hundreds and thousands of agents every week and month. And it's probably 90+% are having or have had their worst 2, 3, 4 consecutive quarters in 10 years. Now
Yeah.
there's some that are like, man, this has been my best year ever. That's great, but that doesn't make everybody else chumps, right? It just means that your business was already positioned appropriately. They've got changes to make. Everybody else has changes to make, right?
Yeah.
So where we've been gaining traction, because we've been gaining a lot of traction, it's the same way we always have. And that's through pivoting the conversation. You know, you can't keep running around being like, oh, tax-free retirement, oh, tax-free retirement, when literally right now, I don't know if you knew this, so Allianz Life Insurance just put out a study, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but it's like a significant majority of individuals in the United States in a certain demographic, but the significant majority have drained their 401ks, IRAs, and Roth IRAs to continue to maintain their standard of living, hoping that the recession would end, incomes would pick back up, those types of things, right?
Interesting.
Um, so it's like people aren't saving for retirement right now. They're literally cashing their freaking retirement out. So why the hell would you go into a conversation with, hey, let me talk to you about tax-free retirement when they just cashed out their Roth IRA? No wonder why you're struggling.
Yeah.
So what people do want to talk about? People do want to talk about decreasing their expenses. Now is a great time to sell term insurance, in my opinion, and sell a crap ton of it. And if you're smart, you'll sell good convertible term, because when things do pick back up, now you have an easy opportunity to move it back into cash value stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then people want to protect what they have. You know, we haven't seen an economic like a Wall Street crash yet, but we're days, weeks, months from it. The only reason we didn't have it a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago is artificial suppression, which made the inflation even worse.
Yeah.
Right. So we're going to see it, but we haven't yet. And people are starting to feel that. So they want to protect their assets. So right now, the annuity conversation, super, super strong. What if I could show you, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, what if there was a place that could guarantee that even if you outlived your money, you would never outlive your income? Would you be
Huge.
interested in having that conversation? Boom, right? So that's been a huge conversation on the annuity side. And then on the cash value life insurance side, I've been getting, and this is just me personally, there's some folks out there slinging more $200 a month IULs than they ever have. I would like, I'm going to tell you, check back with them in 12 months on persistency, because it's probably bullshit. My persistency is 100%. But where I've been getting good cash value conversation, it's in the advanced markets. It's sticking, I like keeping those conversations to accredited investors, people with a net worth over $1 million or who are making 200,000 a year more. Why? Because statistically, remember all those people cashing out retirement and cashing in all their stuff.
Yeah.
The ones who aren't are the high income earners and the accredited investors.
How are you finding those people? Is it like strictly word of mouth, or are you doing marketing things to be able to get those in front of those people?
Both. I get a good word of mouth because I've been in the market for years, but a few ways, right? So you can go pinpointed, really try and sniper shoot them. One of the best ways to go about that is high level professionals, doctors, lawyers, right? That type of thing. And business owners. Every insurance agent is like, and financial advisors, like, I want to work with business owners. Okay. If you want to work with business owners, we've got to really dial that down. Are you looking for like, I'm going to sell IULs to everybody who had a good quarter selling doTERRA snake oils or whatever? I'm just kidding. They're not snake oils. My wife is super.
Yeah.
Every time I go home, it's like lavender, sage, and
Yeah.
whatever. But is that your target audience, or is your target audience like that blue collar guy who runs a construction business? And even though they're down a little bit right now, they're still building 100 homes a freaking year. That's a dude who has money. The guy, the blue collar guy doing 3 homes a year doesn't have a lot of money right now.
Yeah.
The guy doing 100 homes a year still does.
For sure.
And so getting really pinpointed with that. And then the other thing I would say is this. If you'll just do volume-based business, like if I will just do term insurance, if I'll go out and solve term insurance problems and try and solve as many as I can, if I can write like a term app a day, okay, not only am I making money already, but statistically, once again, in the United States, 8% of our population has a net worth over $1 million. So if I go sell a term app a day, that's 20 term apps a month, right?
Yeah.
22 term apps a month. Statistically, I already sold a term policy to 1, 2, maybe even 3 people who have a net worth of $1 million or more. Right? So those conversations are already there. Focus on solving the problem people already have from a perspective they already own. And I'm here to tell you, high net worth individuals, when they need a life insurance solution, typically they're thinking term insurance.
Yeah.
Like everyone's like, oh my goodness, they don't know the benefits. Listen, your broke ass is not going to educate this millionaire on how stupid they are because they don't have a cash value policy. That's why you're not.
It's the things wealthy people don't want you to know. It's so funny because I was actually in the sauna. This was last week, and I'm pretty sure this guy was either with WFG, PHP, one of those companies, right? And so I'm listening. I'm just like minding my own business. I hear in my head, like I could overhear their conversation, and he's like, he was recruiting this guy into life insurance, which was interesting. But he's like, dude, like, what are you doing with your 401k? And then he's like, I don't know, man. Like, I need somebody to look at it. And then he's like, bro, let me tell you what the rich, the real wealthy don't want you to know. And so I wanted to get your input on this, man, because this conversation is great. But I think people skew this so like the wrong way. And there's so many policies that are getting sold that are just like horrible policies that are just like straight commission. Like you make a ton of commission as the agent and you're putting the client in a horrible situation. However, the product could be right. So can we talk a little bit about that? Like, okay, when's the right time for somebody to actually get like an IUL or like cash value life insurance? And then The second question on top of that is like structuring in a way that benefits the client the most, even though you might not make the most commission on that.
Yeah. So, dude, I hate that tagline. What the wealthy don't want you to know. Because here's the thing, I talk like we do our weekly trainings all the time, right? We do
Yeah.
multiple. So yes, literally yesterday we were doing one of our weekly trainings for some of the members of our mastermind. And we were doing playing stump the chump, right? Ask me a question, and a lot of times we'll come in with a lesson, but yesterday was a lot of spitballing like this. And one of the guys brought that up. He's like, well, hey, you know, the wealthy, it's not that the wealthy don't want you to know, but it is what the wealthy do. Like, look at JC Penney, look at Disneyland. Those things were founded through loans from cash value life insurance policies. And I was like, yeah, but number one, your filthy ass is out there slinging nothing but IULs. Those were whole life policies. And I'm not like, I'm a proponent for both. I sell the crap out of both, but let's just clear the air with that. They weren't out there slinging IULs clear back then. And number two,
Yeah.
those businesses, it wasn't Disneyland or JC Penney as you know it today when those businesses were started. We're talking about a $30,000 loan to like pay some animators for the first time ever, right? To draw
Yeah.
Mickey Mouse type of thing. We're talking about a mom and pop mercantile shop that decided to specialize in clothing and needed $10,000 to run through payroll for the month. That's the level we're talking about. Okay. Those individuals did not buy those policies to build JC Penney or to build Disney.
Yeah.
Were already established and they helped them in that very small phase. So does that mean the uber wealthy don't buy cash value life insurance? No, they absolutely do.
Yeah.
But they don't buy it for some measly bullshit 4 to 6, 4 to 7% internal rate of return. And anyone on the whole life or IUL side that's telling clients they're getting more than 4, 5, 6, 7% max average annual return, better check yourself before you wreck yourself. You're going to lose your license over it. Just go look. Like there are so many. Well, there was this one segment. Well, one segment across 10 freaking years that did 50% doesn't equate to 12% per year. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
Right? So I just want to get that out there. When it comes to building those policies right, it's always got to be client best interest. One of my good friends, he was a mentor early on in my career and still is a mentor at this point. His name is Van Miller, pretty well known through the industry. And Van, when he tells his story, I've heard his story probably 100 times now. And when he tells a story, it's consistent. Consistently, he will tell you he was the worst agent on earth for his first 16 years in his career. The thing that changed, he had some exchanges with some uplining management, different things. And the thing that changed is one of his uplining management finally just came out and told him, the day you decide to put the client first is the day you're going to make this business work. And if you can't do that now, I want you to just leave the business. And in Van's story, right, he said, well, that day I decided to just start putting the client first. And lo and behold, I started making more money when I acted in best interest. I heard that story early on. I went through some of my own, I have my own story of my awakening early in my career. And I've gotten to the point where policies need to be built in the client's best interest. And it's different depending on IUL, VUL, standard UL, protector UL, whole life. There's different ways to build it, but it has to always be in the client's best interest.
For sure.
So, we put out tens and hundreds of hours of training on that, and a lot of other folks have too. But at the end of the day, I want folks listening to this to consider this, okay? Because there's still this term it's really prevalent in the IUL space, but it applies to every type of universal life insurance that has cash value and whole life, because whole life, you can blend. Whole life's not just a straight up policy, right?
Yeah. You
can do a small base policy with lots of paid up additions to increase early on liquidity. Like there's a lot of cool things you can do. You can term blend into it. So there's a lot of really neat things, but I want everybody to remember this, okay? There's this term, overfunded. Everyone's like, overfunded IUL is the best. That's chicken shit bullshit. Overfunded IUL is a lie. It's a lie you're telling yourself. It's a lie, and it doesn't make you a bad person. I've found, like, this is what's funny, Johnny. Like, so many people get so offended by my language.
Yeah.
One, I'm crude, and number two, I tend to speak very passionately, and so everybody takes it personally, right?
Yeah.
I don't think these agents are bad agents or bad people. There are some bad ones that I know of, right? And when I come across those, I make sure the state sees them too. But most folks aren't bad. They're
Yeah.
ignorant. And they're
Yeah.
not ignorant on purpose, but you don't know what you know until you know it,
For sure.
right?
Yeah.
So overfunded is a lie. Max funded, maximized, optimized is the only way to go. There is no moral or ethical reason to do it any other way. There's a couple strategies where you wouldn't, but I'm telling 1 in 1,000 policies are sold on those couple strategies. And those strategies do not include, well, my client might want to put more in the policy later, right? So if you're selling a policy that is built to be less than optimal at any given time, it is less than optimal. And how could anything that is less than optimal be considered in somebody's best interest? It can't.
Yeah.
So do what's in a client's best interest. You'll be taken care of. They'll refer you more. They'll become greater raving fans. The universe will pour out blessings to you, but quit being a fucking douchebag, right?
Yeah.
Um,
So does that look like pretty much when you're funding, like say you were to write a an IUL or something like that? So the max funded, if you just put, is it minimum death benefit like max accumulation, or like how are you? Obviously, there's a little bit of tactical things in there, but
yeah.
what does that look like?
Every carrier is going to be a little different. So, like, if we want to take IUL is the big topic right now. It's what everybody talks about,
Yeah.
right?
And what's
So,
interesting is like I that's how I like I was in an IMO that like was talking about that. I think a lot of IMOs are really pushing that topic. But I think what's interesting is when I came across your stuff, you introduced me to the world that like you can build a really good cash value accumulation whole life insurance plan that's not like built on an IUL. So when like when's the right time to put somebody in the different positions, would you say?
yeah. So they're just different tools for different jobs. Whole life, hands down, flat out gives more guarantees. When I have a client who has too low of an appetite for risk, not risk of loss, but risk of non-performance, which can lead to loss. When I have a client who's not willing to pay attention to what's going on, because with an IUL, you got to be willing to pay attention to what's going on. If you want an IUL from me, you've got to be willing to do an annual review. If you're not willing to do annual reviews with me, get a freaking whole life policy. Because I'm not willing, like there's so many things we need to do every single year. We don't need to go chase indexes and allocations and loans and all this stuff, but we need to be on top of the conversation. The primary purpose for me, like these annual reviews are so important, is like we update beneficiaries and contact information, all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But the biggest reason for that annual review, it's not to resell the client on it. It's to remind the client of the utility. You didn't get this to compete with mutual funds. You got this as a supplement or maybe even a replacement for the bond portion of your portfolio, right? If we're talking about like tax-free retirement, or you got it for this, or you got it for that. In order for you to do that, this is a long-term strategy. We got to stick it out. So they might get that annual review paperwork and they're like, or that annual statement. And they're like, oh my gosh, I had all these fees and I didn't even make anything this year. I made very minimal compared to what I put in. And now they've got some Edward Jones person chirping in their ear about how they're getting screwed. No, I told you this day one. I told you they are front loaded over a long enough period of time. We're talking 15, 20, 30 years. If it's built correctly, you should average about 1% per year in total fee basis, right?
Yeah.
But if you don't, then you won't. And if you don't keep it that long, you'll never see your cost basis over the lifetime of that come down to that. If you get rid of this 7 years in, you got ate like dog shit over this thing,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, whole life is going to provide more guarantees. Whole life underwrites easier most of the time for a lot of reasons. Every dollar I pay into a whole life policy and every dollar it accumulates shortens the distance between what the company is providing in death benefit coverage and what's in the policy, right? So if I buy $100,000 death benefit policy and I've got 10,000 bucks in it, they're only insuring me for 90,000,
Yeah.
right? If, I'm putting 10,000 in it per year, by the time I'm 10 years in, even with very minimal accumulation, they're not even insuring me for anything. So whole life does underwrite quite a bit easier. When I have somebody that has significant health issues, there's a good chance I can get them a whole life policy standard rated when I can't get an IUL at all, maybe.
Yeah, that's
And
interesting. For
what's
sure.
cool about that? Well, standard rating, like, yeah, not every one of my clients needs to be standard or better in IUL, but table 4 plus, and I lose accelerated benefits. If accelerated benefits are super important to them, and I can get them standard rated, or I can get them under table 4 on a whole life and over table 4 on IUL, I'm going whole life all day long, because if they're already table rated, how much more likely are they to, I mean, they're 100% likely to need a death benefit. They're going to die, right?
Yeah.
But how likely are they, or how likely is it that they're going to need an accelerated benefit? So I'm going
Yeah.
to try and lower. So there's so many of these circumstances where that makes sense.
Yeah. No, that's good. And I get like, so where like you obviously like have had mentors in the business, and you obviously do a lot of your study, but like to determine what's really best for the client, you didn't learn from like getting preached from the IMO, like, dude, sell these policies, sell this, whatever. Like most of the time, if somebody's preaching hardcore like that, it's probably like not the best product for the client. In my experience of what I've seen, how have you like determined and really been able to figure out, okay, what's the best, what's not? Like, is there things that you've studied on, or like people that you've like learned from, or how'd you come to this knowledge base?
Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and say this, and this is going to piss some people off. I've been stirring the pot pretty crazy lately with carriers and IMOs. I've never seen a carrier or IMO provide a compliance and suitability training that was not geared towards pushing premium their way. Your IMO, you may have access to 80 carriers, but the reason they're pushing those 2 or 3 is because that's where the freaking bonuses are coming from. I'm just telling you that now. I'm not saying that people are bad people, and I'm not saying they're telling you to act out of a client's best interest. I'm just saying that the narrow window of best interest for that specific product range is a
Yep.
narrow window. It's a narrow window, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't get this from anybody. It was all self-study. And sometimes self-study is reading journals and product information and drawing those conclusions and whatever. Sometimes it's paying attention to other influential people who are talking about things, right? So I paid a lot of attention to people like David McKnight, who's become a very good friend, and Van Miller. Like I said, I've started paying a lot of attention the last couple of years to Chris Kirkpatrick. I like Chris. In fact, we've had some brief exchanges here. I actually really like Chris.
Yeah.
Chris is not the IUL hater everybody pegs him to be. Like when you're on social media, when you're building influence, you get to be one thing,
Yeah.
right? Nobody can handle you like, oh, you don't like IUL. But what Chris hates is the incorrect use, utility, and usage of IUL, and the abuse, not just on the agent side, but on the company side,
Yeah.
right? There is
It's
a time
bad.
and a place for it, but it is a much more narrow window than Agent Field Force wants to admit.
Yeah.
And I admit that 100%. It's why my production is split pretty evenly.
Yeah.
But I paid attention to a lot of that stuff. And then I don't just take people at their word, right? They say something and then I go do the homework. It's crazy to me. It's crazy how many people come crawling in my DMs or comment thread on LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever. And they're like, hey, you said this, tell me more. And it's like, okay, I'm happy to. But you should go get some independent fact checking done, because some of this might be my opinion.
Yeah.
And like, go tell, like, I can sit here and be like, oh, Allianz did that study and you're going to take me at my word, but did you go look for that study? Do you know if that study was even done? In 20 fucking seconds, you can get on Google and find that damn study, and now you can know. But agents are too damn lazy to do that.
Yeah.
Right?
That's good for sure.
So
Figuring that out.
that's what I did. And I think that's what sets me apart, not from everybody, but from it's put me into this echelon of individuals who are very in the know and influential, I guess, in that regard.
Yeah.
Um,
That's cool.
is the fact that I'm willing to jump on freaking Google or I'm willing to call a carrier and have that carrier is not just their sales team, but I'm willing to get on the phone with that carrier's C-suites, and I'll push it and push it and push it until I get to talk to the people who designed the damn product in the first place. I'm willing to call the state insurance department, and I'm not scared of them. I don't care if they know my name. I want to be on their radar, because anytime anyone has an issue with me and calls me like, yeah, I know Carson, we barbecued last week. Like,
Yeah.
things are good. But those folks can point you to so much fact. Like, I don't have to go search the insurance code for the state. I can make a 5-minute phone call to the state department, give them my question. They'll go research it for me. They'll literally send me a link to the insurance code to the direct place I need to be to reference that code for that state.
It's good.
These are resources we can use, but nobody's using them.
Yeah, for sure. You're the first person I've ever heard do that. So that's cool. So you started, you have a mastermind, you have a few different levels of coaching. What kind of sparked that, in really growing that and building that out?
It was like a perfect storm. Number one, I'm a passionate person, if you can't tell.
Yeah.
And I find a lot of passion, a lot of fulfillment in helping people do better. I always have. Anytime, any top producer can tell you, when you start producing well, your phone starts blowing up.
Yep.
All the other agents and all the other advisors start calling you, what is it you're doing? What is it you're doing? I got to the point where I was spending literally like 2, 3, 4 hours a day on those types of calls. And I was like, I can't keep doing this. Like, it's starting to take away from, if I'm making $1 million a year selling insurance and this and that and the other, or more than that, and I'm making zero doing this, but now I'm taking 25% of my time and my revenue drops. It's not just like taking food off my table. What about my whole team, where I promised them they had an opportunity to come and work with me, and they be part of an organization that's going to buy them the house of their dreams and drive the car of their dreams and put their kids in dance and whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I decided to start charging for it, and I was like, give me $1,000 a month. We'll do weekly one-on-ones. And I did that for a couple of years, but it got to the point that, like, literally I had like 20, 30 people doing one-on-one with me. 20 to
A
30
lot, bro. That's like a
hours of
full-time
Zoom per
job
week.
there. Yeah. Because coaching is
And
is a different level, because if you guys are doing one-on-ones every week, dude, it's like the level of attention to detail and problem solving. I feel like like working a 20 to 30 hour week just for coaching is what I've learned is so like you have to be present in the moment to help them. And if your attention is truly on helping that person solve this problem, like, dude, it feels like double the amount of work that it actually is.
it's exhausting. So, like, I'll
Yeah.
still do some one-on-one, but I usually cap it to 5 people at a time, and it's 2,500 to $3,000 a month. You can get a discount for paying for a 12 months in advance, but that's what it is. And then, like I say, limit it. But I was in that place, and I was like, I love this. I want to give more impact, but 90+% of all the conversations I'm having across all these people, it's the same stupid ass conversation, right? Everybody has the same. And that's where I got this idea. Okay, well, let's do a mastermind instead, right? Where, my goal with one-on-one coaching, it wasn't just to educate agents, it was to raise the level of the water in the harbor. I want to change the culture of the insurance world. I was like, well, shit, through a mastermind, I could work with hundreds and thousands of people all at the same time, because we're doing this group setting, and I can better affect culture, because culture is affected when you're able to improve on education, accountability, and collaboration, right?
Yeah.
Mastermind can solve for all 3 of those. And that's kind of where it was born. I'm passionate, and it was born, I'm not going to say out of necessity, but kind of somewhat. So
That's cool, man. What's your vision for that moving forward? Like, obviously you're doing a lot of cool things there, hosting like events now. What's like your vision for that group and mastermind?
yeah, so our core focus, I don't believe in mission statements. That's just a vanity piece somebody puts in a $9 Walmart frame and hangs on the wall and jacks off once a month
Yeah.
because it makes it good. Our core focus is to develop the largest community of honest, ethical, productive, and authentic insurance agents in the world. So until we hit that, I don't have another goal. I do believe we are currently the most productive, honest, authentic, and ethical community of insurance agents from every IMO and carrier.
Yeah.
I literally just kicked people out last week for recruiting, and like our morals and ideals, they are so freaking stuck, and everybody's so on board with this. It's insane. When somebody new comes in and tries to interrupt, they're gone in a week. And we've got hundreds of folks across multiple countries at this point, in the mastermind. So I do believe we're on track for that, but we're not the biggest. We have hundreds. Others have thousands until we're bigger than every IMO, every carrier. And I know some of these IMOs have 50,000 freaking people. Guess what? I've got work to do.
Yeah. No, that's cool, man. And yeah, that's really awesome. So let's pivot the conversation a little bit, because you work with a lot of like really high level top producers, just people that are monsters putting up numbers that are just like hard to even believe and think of. What are some like what are they doing that you feel like other people aren't doing, or what are they doing differently in a sense, like, or what are the character traits that they have, or what are those top producers doing that other people might not, or what are they not doing that other people are doing?
Dude, I'm so glad you asked this because it comes down to a couple things. Because we were like in our mastermind, we have a spot for brand new agents, like $97 a month, right?
Yeah.
You're brand new. Let's teach you how to do marketing. Do you need an LLC? How do you structure this? IUL 101, whole life 101, that type of stuff, right? But then, yeah, we get into some really advanced stuff. The difference between the agent that's making 50 or 100,000 a year and the agent that's consistently making a $500,000, $1 million or more per year is exactly this. They're actually doing the damn work. It's not lip service.
Yeah.
And then their level of empathy is greater, frankly. They have bought in fully to the abundance mindset. Scarcity mindset says, oh shit, it's a bad month. I better spend half my day or half my week figuring out how to minimize my bills instead of spending that same amount of time. Like I'm going to save 300 a month by spending half a week minimizing my bills, right?
Yeah.
If I spent that equivalent amount of time doing the actual work like we were teaching people to do, you would have made $3 freaking grand in that same amount of time. But you didn't. You got scarcity minded. You got to trust that it's good, right, and true, and then move forward from it, right? So what's crazy is this. We have hundreds of people in our mastermind, hundreds of people. 20%, so like you hear the 80-20 rule, 20% get in their member portal regularly and watch the modules and implement them. 20%, 20 to 30% are regularly on our weekly live trainings. 20% are regularly collaborating in the private forums. 80% don't log in regularly. In fact, 20% of that 80%, 25% of those, so 1/4 of that 80%, haven't ever even logged into their fucking member portal. Like you're paying for this thing, and what paying for a thing is not going to make you better.
Yeah.
Learning the thing is not going to make you better. Learning it and then doing it day in and day out consistently over the course of time is what makes you better. And that's the difference between the two.
Yeah. So why do you think that is, Brand? Because I've seen that too. And I just don't get it at all. And obviously you've had more experience in this space. It doesn't make sense at all. Why pay thousands of dollars and do nothing with it, or kind of just ghost? Like what do you think's behind that, and how can somebody like avoid actually doing that?
Yeah, because it feels good. Like when I'm in deep shit, right? When I'm in deep shit, or when things aren't going well, do you know how damn good it feels to run down to the gas station and choke down a gas station hot dog? Get a Pepsi, and it's like, I don't even like Pepsi, but get a Dr.
Yeah.
Pepper, like it makes me feel good. It's this endorphin rush. It's serotonin. Like, oh, I'm doing something about it. This is me venting off my stress for just a second. And then I'm going to come back to it. But the problem is I never come back to it. So people are struggling, or they want more for themselves. Like, oh, I'm already a core to the table producer. I'm making $150,000, $200,000, $300,000 a year. And I want more for myself. They have enough money. They go and spend $5,000 on something. And and they feel better about it. They're like, I bought it. And every day for the next 365 days, they're like, I bought it. How is that any different than choking down a gas station hot dog?
It's
It's
really
not,
not. Yeah.
right? So it just, it brings, and it's not this like ego thing, frankly. It's not like, oh, I bought it. Ooh, look at me. No, it's actually a sense of peace. They're like, okay, deep breath. I spent the $100. I committed to spend 100 a month on this thing. I'm going to be okay. And they feel good enough about that that they continue to do the chicken shit bullshit that landed them in that situation in the first place,
That's good.
where they do the things that leave them in that rut. So it's not that they're bad people or that they're making horrible decisions.
Yeah.
I really believe it comes down to actual physical biology. Just by joining, they feel better enough about the situation. Joining, maybe jumping on a live call every now and then, whatever. They feel good enough or better enough about their situation that they fail to take the appropriate action to change their situation.
It's really good. That's really good insight, because there's a saying that like when somebody pays for a solution, there's a psychological effect that like it's solved in their head. But I think, I don't know, I just never have been that like, dude, if I have money on the line, I don't even care if it's $50, bro. I'm like putting everything into that to be able to make it worth it. I just paid like $120 for something a month, and I'm like binging like all the content inside of it. And so I think that's really important to do just as an agent, right? Like there are solutions out there that could work, but not falling for the shiny object thing to be like, anything could work, but like, what are you actually going to execute on? Because I think
That's it.
people lack the execution.
That's it. Like that's one of the things. One of the very first things we teach people for like $97 a month. You need a strategic marketing plan because there's $1 million ideas, but the only real $1 million idea is the one you're making $1 million on. Everything else is bullshit. It's lip service, right? So you need to get dialed into what you're able to do, what you're willing to do, what you find fulfillment in. It's productive and profitable, and it's scalable. You hit those 5 points, you pick 3 things you can do daily, and you'll see your paycheck hit 5, 10,000 a month within 90 days.
It's awesome.
Anybody who's not seeing that result, and I'm just gonna say it like, and it's gonna piss people off. If you are not seeing that result, this business pays us so stupid good. If you don't see your paycheck hit 5, 10 grand a month, even 5 grand a month within 90 days, it's because you are not spending the appropriate amount of time doing the appropriate things that you are able to do, willing to do, you find fulfillment in, they're productive and profitable and scalable. Just 3. You're spending your time, maybe you're not working as much as you think you are, or you're working as much as you think you are. You're just not actually getting anywhere with that work because you're doing too much.
Yeah.
Right. So
for new agents out there, man, wanting to produce at a really high level, obviously like there's so much in the industry, there's so much noise to do. There's so many different ways to do it. But like for somebody coming in that might not have the money to invest in leads, like, or maybe there are, maybe you just do it right. So what are some things that you would recommend for a new agent that might not believe that they can, like actually make a return on leads, or they just don't have any money to invest in that regard? How would you recommend them going out and doing the activity and still being able to do the work? Like what are some action steps there?
yeah, so again, like that's literally, so we solved that exact question with the very first few trainings in the very bottom of our mastermind, and it's built a strategic marketing plan. Write down every idea you can possibly come up with. If you have less than 25, you're not creative enough to be in this business. Probably go back to doing something else. I'm just saying. You're either not creative enough or you're not willing to pick up the phone and call somebody else and ask them for their ideas. So you either have to be creative or collaborative in this business, or
That's good.
both. But if you can't be one of those 2 things, just leave. Because
Yeah.
you're cost your family a lot of heartache, and I don't want that for you. But make a list, right? And any way that business could possibly come in without bias. So I could buy leads, I could knock doors, I could do networking, I could do organic social media, I could do paid social media, I could do Google ads, I could get a newspaper ad, I can stop in on businesses, I could buy a billboard, I could get a fucking Super Bowl commercial, put it on there.
Yeah.
And for everybody who's going to actually go do this, if you don't put Super Bowl commercial on there, I'm going to be mad at you because I said no bias. Don't be a bitch. Okay.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for this, because this list, it's not like something you do and then you throw away. It grows. Like what you filter out of this over the course of time changes. You should be going back over this list every 3-6 months and being like, oh damn, right? No more than every 3 months, by the way, because if you're doing any marketing activity for less than 3 months, you didn't give it enough time to work. If you're
That's good.
buying leads and calling leads for less than 3 months, you can't tell me those leads sucked. You sucked.
Yep.
Okay. You got to be, you didn't even give yourself enough time to get good at it. Okay.
That's for sure.
But write all those things down, and then that same 5-point filter I already gave you. Are you able to do it? Are you willing to do it? Do you find fulfillment in it? Is it productive and profitable? And is it scalable? Right? So like, do I have 2 minutes to just hit on each one of those real quick?
Yeah, bro, let's go.
All right. So right now today, are you able to do it? If you're not able to do it, cross it off your list for now, because your ability, your capacity to do and have and be and achieve, it's going to grow over time if you're doing this right. I may not be able to afford a Super Bowl commercial today. I'm not able. I can cross it off my list for now. There's going to come a day you're going to see Carson Porter run a freaking Super Bowl ad.
Let's go, man.
Just for the sake of it. It's probably going to look like Kanye. Like, hey, I've got some shit on my website. You should buy it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do it just because I've been at this for so long. It's worked so well. And I've got to at that point.
Yeah.
But like I say, if I can't do it today, cross it off. If I can, put a check mark by it. Am I willing to? Because that's the thing. Like you hear all these people that are like, oh, I make $1 million a year doing this. Okay, but are you actually willing to do that? Like, I know dudes that make $1 million a year knocking doors. Are you willing to go knock doors? Because if you're not willing to knock doors, don't sit here and tell me that's your marketing plan. That makes you a fucking fool. You're not going to do it. So just cross it off right now in the quiet of your own, the privacy of your own office. Just cross it off. Okay. Then ask yourself, right? Able, willing, fulfillment. Do I enjoy it, or can I find a way to enjoy it? Right. Because if I can't find a way to enjoy it, I might do it for a day. I might do it for a week. I might do it for a month. I'm never going to do it consistently enough to build a business and an income off of it. I've got to love what I do. If I don't love what I do, I don't know about you, but if I don't love what I do, I find a way to not do it. We call that self-sabotage, right? So I'm going to be real honest with myself. I'm going to have the most candid conversation I've ever had. Be like, do I find fulfillment in that, or can I? You know? And if I don't, cross off the list. If I do, give it a check. Is it productive and profitable? Right? I have to seriously ask myself that. And this is one of those things that it might be good for you to call, not just the person you heard was making $1 million a year off it, but call 5 or 10 people who have tried it. See what the consensus is. Buying donuts for fat ass mortgage freaking lenders so that they'll send you referrals is not a viable way of doing life insurance business.
100%.
You can actually do pretty good home and auto business working with mortgage lenders, but you're going to struggle to do life insurance business with mortgage lenders. So why would you spend $300 a month on donuts, hours per week, all the gas money to drive around and drop off donuts? Don't. It's not productive and profitable.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. So you go through that, and then finally, is it scalable? Why scalable? Because I don't want to always be my number one marketer. I want to be my business owner. I want to hire marketers into this position. So if this is an activity that only I can do, it's probably not one I should be doing right now. It's got to be one that I can teach and scale. I want, like, and you can teach and scale like door knocking. So door knocking was one of my things early on. I didn't know any other way. I had no other money. I couldn't buy leads, but I could walk over to the neighborhood next to my office. I didn't even have money to drive. I could walk over to my neighborhood next to the office and start knocking doors. And then once I started making some money, I could hire people to knock doors. Right? I don't knock doors now because I don't do lines of business that I feel like are good to knock doors for. I don't like knocking doors for life insurance. I don't think it's productive and profitable. I think cross-selling home and auto is productive and profitable. So that's a whole nother conversation. But back then I was doing home auto life. So I could go knock doors for home and auto, run their home and auto, and then cross-sell them life. And then by the time, like, my first $1 million per year that I made, what our primary marketing activity was knocking doors. I had 9 people full-time knocking doors, full freaking time.
They were just
Uh,
appointment setting for you?
Um, no, so the way we knock doors, we didn't set appointments on the door. Everybody that says set appointments on the door has never knocked doors, not for insurance,
Oh, so they're
right?
just going in and you just had a team of just people selling under you.
No, you don't sell on the door either. You go and you get contact information and then you call back to set the appointment on it. So we would
Oh,
go and
okay.
leads every day, and then they would get bonuses for calling their own leads to set appointments as well. So it's a multi-step process, but that's how I made my first $1 million per year. $0 out of pocket unless we had results, right? Which is really, really cool. It worked well for me. But should everybody be doing that? No, because if you're
With
not
those
willing to knock doors, don't put that on your damn list.
For sure. With those 9 people, were they just setting appointments for you or for themselves?
For me, like it
Jeez.
got to
So
the
how
point
many
where I
appointments were
didn't
they
have to
setting a
knock
day?
doors. Yeah, so we got to the point where I was running consistently 4 to 5 new appointments per day, and then I would have 4 to 5 follow-up appointments per day on top of that.
Was that in the
And
field?
what's that?
Was that in the field or Zoom or virtual, or how'd that work?
No, that was before I started doing anything virtual. That was in the field. 90% of those appointments were in clients' homes. So 5 new appointments per day, 4 to 5 new appointments per day, 4 to 5 closing appointments per day, every single day, Monday through Friday. We did that for years.
Why would you not
Um,
set appointments like there? Like what was
uh,
that? What was kind of the
it doesn't
reasoning
work
there?
as
I've
well.
never door knocked, that's why.
Yeah, we tried it. It doesn't work as well. Your appointment rate goes way, way down. So I would like, yeah, you can get appointments and there's all these arguments for it, but I would rather have the lead up front. We call them within 24 hours. Like if we go get 10 leads today, we're going to get 3 of those to set appointments tomorrow. I would rather that than have my guys just go out on the doors and get 3 appointments. Why? Because I have 7 more leads here. And what's really cool on that is those 7 extra leads, we archived those and we literally, like to this day, I still have the list. It's like 20,000 plus people that we knocked doors on,
Jeez.
uh, and gathered those leads. And for years, anytime one of my team was having a bad week, like eventually I started hiring producers, not just marketers. Anytime they were having a bad week or a bad day, it was like you never end the day without selling something. I don't care if it's $10 a year. I don't care if it's $100 a year or whatever. You sell something every day. And one of the things that we always guaranteed is anytime you pick up the phone, you make 100 dials, which takes 1 to 2 hours to do. That's it. And that's without an auto dialer, by the way. We weren't using auto dialers. We were literally calling off our cell phones 1 to 2
Yeah.
hours, and we can hit 100 dials. I can guarantee if you hit 100 dials and you're using the right words you're going to sell something that day. End of story. It might be a home policy, an auto policy, maybe a legal shield supplement for some identity theft protection, or maybe a life insurance policy, or there's so many things. So I wanted those extra 7. We made as much money on those extra 7 we didn't get initial appointments with as we did on the initial
How are you
appointments.
getting their contact info? Like what are you saying to be able to get their info?
Yeah, you're like, what's your best fucking email address? Maybe don't use the F word, but
So you're
you
just
know,
asking them straight up, like, so they're just knocking the doors. So let's just like role play because I'm just curious, how this would even work. If you're not
so
going to
first of
set
all,
the
don't knock
appointment.
doors for life insurance. It doesn't work very well.
Okay.
It doesn't work very well. I've never found a way to make it work very well. I'm sure there's a few people that make it work very well, but it's what they do. Is it scalable? Is it duplicatable? For most people, it's not.
So you're
So
door
not
knocking for home and auto.
for home and auto. And if you're a life only agent, cool. Like I actually have an agent. He actually used to knock doors for me. He's now an agent. He doesn't work for me. He's got his own agency. And he's like, how do I get into life appointment? All he wants is to do life appointments. And I was like, bro, you know how to get home and auto leads. Go find an agency in town, State Farm, Farmers. I don't give a shit. Find an agency in town that's willing to pay you $1 per lead. Go knock doors for them. And then the back end of your contract says you get to solicit those leads for life insurance 100%. Right. So he's knocking doors for home and auto. He might go get 10, 15 leads in a day, make $100, $200 in 3 or 4 hours for knocking those doors. So now his pipeline is paying him instead of him paying for his pipeline.
Yeah.
Right. So he's monetizing that time effectively. They're following up on the home and auto. And then he calls him back and he's like, hey, so-and-so hooked up your home and auto, and just kind of launches into, we have a very specific proprietary mortgage protection script that converts about 1 in 3. Like
Yeah, so you
1
got you got that. How so you let's talk about them actually getting the info, right? So like they come and they're
So,
door knocking like
yeah, it's super easy. The script is super. Every time I've told anybody this, I've been telling folks this for 10 years, and they're like, no way. Yeah, fucking way. And I've got so many people that can corroborate this story. Literally, you walk up to the door, you knock on the door, they open it, and you're like, "Hey, my name is so and so with X and X agency. We're a local agency. I was just going around the neighborhood, letting everybody know we're going to be calling you in the next couple days to give you some home and auto insurance quotes because we've been helping a lot of folks out." And they're like, "What? How are you going to be calling me?" It's like, "Oh, well, what's the best number to reach you on?" Right? And you just ask them.
So you
And
just
if
do
they
that, get
bought,
the info, and then say you're gonna you'll get a call in the next
that's
24 hours.
yeah, in the next 1 to 2 days, we'll give you a call and set up a time to go over this with one of our agents, right? Um, but we'll just launch right into it. If they balk at all, it's just, hey, I totally understand. There's no obligation. You don't have to do this, but we've been able to help so many folks up and down the street here that we figured we just go around and let everybody know we're gonna find a way to give you a call, right? So if you don't want to, let me know, and I'll put it on the list. That you're not down to look into saving some money on your home and auto insurance.
It's
And
interesting.
and sometimes they're like, no, I'm not. But again, anytime my guys and gals went out for an hour or two, they'd come back with 10, 15 leads every single time. And that's all we needed. You don't need 100 leads a day,
Yeah.
10, 15 a day, and you're good to go. Um, and then, yeah, we put all those down. We didn't even have a CRM back then. I printed out sheets. They would write them down on these sheets. I put them in binders, and then we had color codes with highlighters. We would call through those binders every damn day. That's how archaic this was, and I still made $1 million a year doing it. So don't sit here and tell me this stuff doesn't work. We worked it, and because of that, we made the money. If you're not
Yeah.
making the money on it, it's because you're not working it, right?
Yeah, I
So
think
that's
that
literally
one of the lessons in there I feel like is what we were talking about earlier. Like there's a million ways to make $1 million, but it's the one that you're actually doing that's actually working. And I think you went out and executed. And that's an interesting way. I've actually never heard of that before. So it's interesting because you could there's so many different ways you could do it, but I think for you guys listening, just commit to one path and stick with it for the long run, right? Like you said, you can't tell if a lead works or not. You can't tell if a marketing play works. 3 months is still a really short amount of time in the long scheme of things. Like testing with a minimum of like 6 months, 12 months is a little bit better data, but the more data that you have, the ultimately the more profitable that you are, the more money that you're going to make at the end of the day, which is huge. Um, and I appreciate that, like, because that's like you just got to work it at the end of the day. Like it really
yeah,
doesn't matter. You don't have to have the money.
dude, everybody wants a 30-day or a 30-year business, a 30-year dynasty in 30 days. It doesn't happen like that.
Yeah.
So
That's huge, bro. What are so as we kind of wrap up here, man, because this has been really, really, really insightful for a ton of people I know watching this and listening to this. Um, I guess for like a new agent, what would your recommendation be if they want to go to start making obviously 10,000 a month, right? What's kind of the path for them to get to that spot?
help me understand your question just a little bit more.
Yeah, so like an agent coming into the business, what would you like if you had to start from zero again and go to making 10,000 a month consistently? What's your path to get there?
Build that strategic marketing plan, run that 5-point filter, right? You need 3 things out of there. One of those things needs to guarantee you, if I do this today, I could maybe even make a transaction today, right? Hand in hand marketing or calling leads are the only 2 things that will fulfill that. So if you're not spending, when you're a brand new agent, if you're not spending 2 hours a day doing hand in hand marketing, knocking doors, doing surveys down at the strip mall or something like that, or calling leads, you're not going to make it in this business probably, unless you just have a network that's incredible. I've known a few agents like that, by the way, and it happens, but it's rare. It's rare. So when you're a new agent, if you're not willing to do that, you're not going to make it. Or have the leads, and you need to spend at least 2-3 hours per day pounding leads. Like, you got to do one of those. The other two marketing activities you pick for the day, you got to do them every day, but they are more scalable. One of them you want to be able to scale to a consistent, it's giving me 3-5 appointments per week within 30 to 60 days. Networking is a good example of that, right? Whether it's BNI or corporate alliance or chamber of commerce or whatever, you're going to have to show your face a few times before people are going to send business your way. And then the other one should be infinitely scalable. You make the most amount of money on it, but you spend the least amount of time per day on it, like 15 minutes a day. So for me, that was organic social media. People are like, oh my gosh, you've been popping on the scene the last 3 years. Go back and look through like my Facebook. I've been dropping like I've had times I jumped off or did this or did that, but I've been dropping posts, videos, all sorts of stuff since 2016. Like 8 years, and the last 3 years, it's really started to pop off and I'm making money at it. I had no idea how long it would take. I'm making hundreds of thousands per year off of social media alone at this point. But I have no control over that. So all I can give it is 15 minutes of my day. If I give it more than that, I'm probably going to go broke. Networking, I can give it 30 minutes to an hour a day. If I give it more than that, I'm probably going to go broke. I won't even make it to 60 days where it starts kicking me the referrals. So what am I going to do for a paycheck today? I got to do some hand-in-hand marketing, right? So if you want that fast path to $10,000 a month, start doing either buy the leads and actually freaking call them, or you need to do the hand-in-hand marketing and then actually freaking follow up.
Yeah.
There's not another way around it. And this is why most agents fail, because most agents aren't willing to do one of those two things.
Yeah, you got to do the work at the end of the day if you want to be successful and start making money. So, dude, where can people reach out and work with you at some capacity, or just follow you on your journey, man?
Yeah, any of my socials, it's all the same, at cporter389. I think that's my tag or whatever on pretty much every social media platform at this point. RevAgencySyndicate.com if you want to look at what we do with our mastermind, or shoot me an email. I don't give my email out often, but I'll give it out here. CarsonP@RevAgencySyndicate.com. Shoot me an email, shoot me a Facebook message, shoot me a LinkedIn message with your questions, whatever. If I don't know the answer, I'll tell you. If it's not worth my time to give you the answer, I'll tell you. But 99 out of 100 times, I'll give you an answer. You may not get it in 10 minutes because I'm freaking busy, but I'm happy to provide value where I can. So
let's go. Well, if you haven't already, guys, subscribe to the channel, share this with a friend if you found it valuable, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.